The middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
चुन चुन करके हिसाब लेना ये मेरी फितरत है.
Why should it be a problem if I'm smart enough to have multiple options? You should be admiring me.
भारत झुकने वाला भी नहीं.
The rise of India will be determined by India. It will be determined by our strength, not by the mistakes of others.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you like trade corridors, world order, then you like energy, supply chain, all these type of talks, you enjoy these type of videos, then please do like and subscribe to my channel. This is where I talk about all these things in detail, and I talk about where the world is headed as well. If you want to know more about it, please do go and buy my book of the same name, Emerging World Order 2025. Okay, so let's get going, let's get started. How India is building a new trade route for Russian oil, and it is more like India and Russia are building it together actually. Okay, so let's get going, let's get started, let's talk about all this good stuff. Okay, now, so why I am talking about this video, right? See, the way things are right now, the way the world is transitioning, the great power, the superpower is coming down, and the other middle powers that were there, they are now rising up, and world is going through a very turbulent stage. And in this turbulent stage, we are going to see lots and lots of chaos. Everyone is trying to grab and run. This is a grab and run type of situation. Okay, so what's happening is the United States is once again discussing new tariff measures against countries that are purchasing Russian oil. And United States has been, for quite some time, they've been looking for ways to reduce Russian energy revenues. It's not just about Russian energy revenues, guys, okay? What they've been trying to do is that they've been trying to reduce Russian influence in every aspect. That's what their primary goal has been. And because of Russia-Ukraine war, they actually killed Russian market in the Europe. And it's happening through back channels, but now they're trying to move to Asia and do the same thing. So that's why they're talking about tariffs, they're talking about other things. Okay, now and they're trying to build that pressure through tariff pressure, then dollar settlement risk because of the banking restrictions and all that can be put. Then you have maritime insurance, right? All that, we all know all these things. Then you have Suez Canal, Red Sea risk, what's happening in the Hormuz and all that, right? So the question really is that does India have a backup plan for all these things? So the answer is that yes, India has a backup plan, and this is the beauty of being a great power. A true great power always has this tendency that they always plan their redundancy, contingency. Okay, they have their disaster recovery plan. All the backup plans are in place, and one of the backup plans for India is the Chennai Vladivostok Corridor. Now, how important this corridor is, you're gonna learn by the end of this video. You're gonna know how important it is and the kind of dependencies it's gonna solve for India, and the vulnerabilities it's gonna actually solve for India and Russia together. Okay, so stay with me till the end and let's talk about it, what exactly is going on. Okay, and to understand this corridor, we first need to understand the dependency it is trying to protect, like I said earlier. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get going, and let me actually share my slide once again. So here's the news. As you can see, that US wants India, other nations to halt Russian oil purchases as soon as possible. US wants to end Russian oil sanction waivers, how it will hit India, all that good stuff they're talking about. And this has been a game since 2015. Now America's best friend is Pakistan. So this is, how do I say, this is ridiculous. Like, how you have to be a complete moron to really do that type of stuff. Okay. And they think that they're building pressure on India, but reality of it is that there is no Pakistan pressure on India. Anyways, now let's look into the numbers. When you look at the numbers here, the how big the Russian oil dependency is for India. Russian oil dependency is that India's daily consumption is 5.5 million barrels per day, and India actually imports 85% of its oil. Okay, 85% of crude oil for India is imported, and one third of that comes from Russia. Okay, so this is why Chennai Vladivostok Corridor becomes even more important than anything else. And uh, other dependencies and all, let's talk about that real quick. So for India, actually, energy remains one of the India's largest strategic dependencies. And see, the thing about oil and natural gas is that it's structural. Even if India wanted to eliminate it, there is no way for India to eliminate it. Only way India can do is that find reliable partners who are capable militarily to defend their supply chains and defend anything else, and those the partners who are not going to succumb to uh, pressures. Okay, so and because the energy growth requires what, stable and affordable energy supplies, right? And the way India is growing at the rate of 7 to 8% like that, it's important. And then other thing is this, that India has to increase its export. Okay, India has to increase its export. So this is why India has to grow its ports on the eastern coastline more and more. Okay, and to grow the export, because India needs to make its rupee stronger, because right now India is running in a trade deficit. So manufacturing growth will require what, stable and affordable affordable energy supply, the shorter supply chains, then secure supply chains and more reliable supply chains, so that no country can actually interfere in this thing. Okay, that's the India's energy reality. Now then comes the other thing, that why India and Russia are working on it, and why and how they are going to manage this whole entire thing. See, Russia, from the very for a very long time, Russians have been looking for their entry in the Indian Ocean, their influence in the Indian Ocean. So, so now Russia is not entering the Indian Ocean for oil and defense purposes. Okay, Russia is entering there for ports, chemicals, logistics, storage, and manufacturing. You name it. India and Russia have defense pact now, where 3,000 soldiers can be can be deployed on the Indian soil, and vice versa, like that. Okay, so to trade with Russia and the Vladivostok Chennai corridors, India's eastern coast becomes a bridge. Okay, it's like a bridge. Vizag, then you have Kakinada, then Chennai, then Vladivostok, all that. And this is like it's gonna be a complete route like that. Okay, and this gives Russia a very stronger Indian Ocean industrial footprint. Right now, India and Russia are working together to develop Vizag. Okay, so and other thing for Russia to develop this whole thing is this, that India and Russia, they trade in rupee and ruble. Okay. Now, for a long time, and there is a trade deficit of $60 billion. So, for Russia, keeping Indian rupee in that much amount, it's a very risky thing. They're like, hey, we got this much rupee, we don't know what to do with it. So India is saying that, hey, we have lots of development opportunities. Why don't you just simply invest here? So this is why Russians are working with India in developing India's ports and all that too. From defense to crude oil to energy to semiconductors, Russians are investing in Indian cities very heavily at this point. Okay, this is another reason why the this whole Chennai Vladivostok corridor is going to become even more important. Okay, so then so for Russia it helps. Like I said, for Russia it helps that um, in gaining the market, because Europe was historically Russia's largest energy market, and that now Europe is gone, right, because of sanctions and all. So India emerged as one of Russia's most important energy customers after China. And Russia's most important trading partner will be China and India. Now, when you develop Vladivostok Chennai corridor, then Vladivostok Chennai corridor passes through South China Sea. So, who else is there involved in the South China Sea? It is China. So, considering that China and Russia, Chinese and Russians, Russia and China are very huge trading partners, and Russia and India will be even more so, right? So, why would China even interfere in that supply chain? At least for India and Russia, they're not going to do that. At least that's the assumption. So, that's another reason why that supply chain is very secure. It is way secure than people know, compared to what's in the Red Sea and all that. Okay, so for India to enter Europe or to go into Arctic or anywhere else, this is a very important point. And India and Russia have the mutual dependency that India needs affordable energy, Russia needs reliable buyers, and both countries need a stable system capable of sustaining trade for, like I said, 1,000 years. Now, but every dependency eventually creates vulnerabilities. I talked about some of the vulnerabilities briefly, right? But in this case, vulnerability comes from the system that connects India and Russia. And I have talked about that briefly. Let's talk about that some more, okay? And I'm going to share my slide. So, when we talk about the vulnerability here, vulnerability is the America's pressure campaign, right? Like tariff pressure, financial pressure, then maritime insurance, shipping routes. With tariff, what they can do is they're gonna say they're gonna try to suppress India's export to America. Huh? And the problem is that future administrations, they may escalate this whole thing. There is no guarantee. Like if you look, for example, in 2018 and also when President Trump was in office, he actually asked India to stop buying oil from Iran. India said that okay, so they obliged that part at that time. And when they obliged it, so now this is another drama started, right? So how, for question is, how much do you actually listen to this? Right? There is a limit for all these things, right? And so one second, let me actually adjust my certain things. One second, there you go. Okay, so this is why now, and this is why India is not even actually listening this time, because India is not seeing any value add by listening to all this or obliging all these things. At first, when India did it, then I think President Trump, he thought that he was under the impression that they're gonna succumb to the pressure. What Americans actually think about the pressure is that countries, they don't think that countries are actually obliging out of friendship or out of a goodwill or something. No, they don't believe in the goodwill concept. They believe that somehow they live in this delusion that their pressure is one thing that's actually making countries do something, and that's where the big mistake is. Okay, so so now since India and Russia are already trading in rupee and ruble, so some of you may ask this question that, hey, if India and Russia are trading in rupee and ruble, then what can actually US do? So some of these things are there. Like for example, tariff pressure. They can apply tariffs, high tariffs on India's exports to Russia. Oh, sorry, to United States. And the future administrations, they may try to do it more. Then financial pressure will be like any dollar-based settlement system. They may start to actually apply sanctions on certain selective things too for India too that may actually hurt or something, whatever. Right? I don't think they will. They're not gonna go to that extreme. Why? Because uh, it's gonna backfire on US and it's gonna backfire on President Trump really, really bad way. And then so I don't think that's it's gonna be that drastic. Okay. But then other thing is the maritime insurance. Then they can actually if you put the tariffs and you start to apply the sanctions, then we know maritime insurance, right? Maritime insurance is just simply all dollar based trade, right? But India has backup plan for that as well. India has its own Bharat Maritime Insurance, that is $1.5 billion insurance. And India has added Russian companies into that insurance as well. So maritime insurance part is also addressed. All right. Then comes the shipping routes. Now, if India takes the Red Sea route, okay, to purchase Russian oil, first thing is that it's a very long route. Okay, it's a long route. If you take Suez Canal and all that, then we know what kind of disruptions are going on over there, right? So overall, that's a risky business. Going in that direction in itself is a risky business. So that's the vulnerability, and this is why India had to figure out the this whole Vladivostok Chennai corridor to trade with the trusted partners, because India and Russia, they both understand that Arctic is the future. Everything is gonna be in the Arctic. Now imagine this that I mean, see, it's not just about the natural resources. Arctic has a very huge land mass. You can actually set up the space observatories and all kinds of research and everything you can do from the Arctic. So it has a very big and huge potential for the future. Okay. So so the vulnerability overall that India thought is that it's not the Russian oil purchase of the Russian oil per se. They were like, okay, we can buy it. The vulnerability for India was all this nonsense. Like somebody's gonna finger into things for no reason, right? Like Strait of Hormuz happened, Red Sea. Then any choke point you see, just create a mess over there. When you make a mess of somewhere, then it affects the other countries. So if the other three great powers are always scrambling for alternatives like that, then the one great power that likes to finger into everything like that is going to, it helps, right? It's in geopolitics, what happens is that it's all strategy is always to delay things as much as you can for the other party. That's the whole strategy. Why? Because when you create delay into certain projects, then delay means more cost. And if the delay is really, really significant, then the project becomes cost ineffective. It becomes a burden actually. Why? Because the ROI that you calculated before when the project actually started. Let's say there is some project A. Now India is working on that project. Though India said that okay, the cost of investment will be $3 billion and the total ROI from this will be $8 billion. Now let's say China decides to finger into it and they start to raise the cost of it from 3 billion to 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion. And finally, let's say India was able to do it. So what's the profit margin for India? Only $2 billion. But if India would have finished the whole thing on time, then what was going to happen? Right? Then profit margin was higher, right? Higher meaning that higher, it helps into your foreign exchange reserve, it helps into your growing GDP growth and all that. All that whole entire thing is there, right? So this is why the delay is created. Okay, you want, other parties want to delay your growth. This is why. Okay, so that's the vulnerability part. Now, and but here's the thing though, the all the great powers that are there, they don't wait for a crisis. They build the backup system before they need it. Like for example, the whole entire the Vladivostok Chennai corridor. India actually started working on this whole thing in 2022 or before that. And in 2024, for the first time, actually, the first shipment arrived from Russia to India. So all that work was already done before the Strait of Hormuz could actually happen. Okay, so now let's talk about what exactly the Vladivostok Chennai corridor is. What is so important about it? Okay, so stay with me till the end, guys. Okay, I'm gonna actually take out the map. I'm gonna show you exactly how this whole thing is gonna play out down the line. All right, let me share my slide with you. Okay, let me share my slide with you and then let's talk about it. Now we talk about Vladivostok corridor. Up until now, what we learned that there are dependencies like crude oil, energy supply chains and all that. And India is developing. Russia needs a buyer. India needs a seller. Reliable partnership. That's what they need, right? Then we also learned that this dependency, when you are actually playing with the fire, then chances are that you may get burned. You are going to be friends with somebody stronger, or then you are bound to deal with enemies as well. So the question really is, how do we track all that, right? How do we handle these problems? It's all about problem management. It's not about just giving up and all that in life and in geopolitics too. So what happened? The solution was Vladivostok Chennai corridor. That's where we are at. So the benefit of the Vladivostok Chennai corridor is this: the traditional route is basically 8,600 plus nautical miles. Okay, and Chennai Vladivostok is your 5,600 nautical miles. So transit time basically it falls from 40 days to around 24 days. So if India uh, so right, you see this here. So it comes from Vladivostok in Russia, and then it goes to South China Sea of Japan, then South Korea, East Japan Sea, all this, then through Strait of Malacca through Chennai. Okay, so that's how it is. Now, if India goes from the if India covers the same route through India's west coast, that is on the west coast side, right, this side, okay, then that's gonna be 8,600 nautical miles, and that's gonna take 40 days. This is from this side is gonna take over 1 second. From this side is gonna take 40 days. From here to here, it just takes 24 days. Okay, so that's the difference. Now, like I said, in trade, in business, time is money. So shorter supply chain, less cost, more faster delivery, faster growth, right? Faster pace of making anything. That's the thing on paper though. What exactly is going on here? Right? Let me actually take out the map and then explain you even better. Okay? So if you are still with me, then stay there. Okay? Now, so here is the map. And let's take out my pen. So somewhere around here is Vladivostok. Okay, so it comes from here, then Taiwan, then through here, and then to Chennai. Okay, now what exactly is going on here is this: that India wants to develop. India has lots of ports. You see this big long coastline from all the way from here to here. half of India from on this side. This is the eastern side, right? So India has uh, ports here, everywhere. Pretty much, there are almost like I would say 7 or 8 ports here. Okay, and somewhere around here is Vizag port. That's where Russians and Indians are actually working together and doing the investment and all that. And then somewhere around here is Chennai. Okay, so like I said, from Vladivostok it comes here to Chennai. It goes to here. But what India is saying, look at the map first. Okay, before I move forward, look at the map. Now, what do you see in this map? What you see is that this whole thing, India has to develop all these ports for a reason. Hmm? Why? Because it's not just about the external supply chain on this side. Okay, it's also about internal supply chains on this side. You have to understand this. This is very important. That when you look at it, if it is just Chennai, for example, okay, one second, let me show you here. All right. So now, if it is just Chennai, this guy right here, okay, then India has to provide all this stuff is gonna go from here to different parts of India. Now that becomes very long, right? If something here is needed and it goes from Chennai to here, then we have a bigger problem, right? That's very long. So, but imagine this: if all these ports line here, all these ports line that are there. Now, if India has to provide supply chains from here, see, imagine this, right? Now, this is faster, right? Now, this is on one side, and then you have ports from all the way from here, ports, and then here, like this, right? So it covers pretty much whole of India, right? And what does this do? It actually makes the supply chain shorter within India itself. You have a timely delivery. So what happens? This keeps the cost of things in India cheaper. And cheaper cost meaning that your import cost goes down. Your import cost goes down, then your currency depreciation actually goes down. And this is how you do it. Right now, because of Strait of Hormuz crisis, India's currency is facing the problem, not because India's exports are not there or something. India's exports are gonna reach at least $1 trillion this year, but that trade deficit is still there. What is that trade deficit? Trade deficit is mainly coming from 2 countries, China and Russia. Sorry, and one of those major problems is what? Oil. Right? So how does India counter that? This is how you're going to counter it, by creating your own supply chain, so that your this whole mess is right here. The mess right here is this part here, or this part here, this part here. It's not there. I'm not saying that this is not important aspect, but if this part here becomes optional, this part here becomes optional, this becomes optional, then hey, good for India. And this is where the world is actually headed. Why? Because there were lots and lots of jihadi problems coming from this area too. Okay, there are certain countries who were organizing lots and lots of things. So one second, let me share my screen again from this area. Okay, lots of jihadi problems here, and then here. These countries were more the money they were making, that money was being used into something else. Okay, so this is why your Vladivostok Chennai corridor becomes very important. Why? Because it's gonna be connected from here to all these things. Now, this is just one aspect of things, all right? Another aspect is this. Another aspect of Vladivostok Chennai corridor is this. Now, you see, this is Andaman, right? So now let me show you the Andaman. What exactly is going on with the Andaman strategy? So Andaman is India's military base, and this is going to be India's trade hub too, East Coast trade hub for IMEC and all that. This is going to be the hub. Now, some of you like, why this is gonna be hub? This is gonna be hub because Thailand is working on this part here to make a Thailand land bridge, so that this will cut time. Okay, this is gonna cut time all the way from, instead of going here, so things are gonna come here and directly go here. Okay, and then from here and then here, this is gonna be the main thing. And this Andaman part here, Andaman Nicobar, is gonna actually provide the security for Thailand land bridge to enter Indian ships into the Gulf of Thailand directly. Okay, now when you do the Gulf of Thailand grand strategy, what happens is that India has just invited Myanmar. India is working with Thailand already. Then India is, what India is going to do is, India is going to use this right there as a BIMSTEC, and India is gonna connect this thing too. Okay, so what's happening here? You are trading with your Myanmar, you are trading with Bangladesh, you are trading with Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, all these countries. Okay, so you have proper land corridor here. Okay, you have land corridor with all the ASEAN trading partners, and now from here you have entry into Gulf of Thailand as well. And then from the Gulf of Thailand, you are working through Thailand land bridge from this side. So this is gonna cut the cost even more so. You notice this? And if something happens in Strait of Malacca, let's say Malacca may have something may happen in Strait of Malacca, you have to understand this. Okay, this is not Strait of Malacca. Actually, this guy right here, it's not untouched. Don't ever think that this is not untouched. Why is that? See, this is gonna be some major crap happening here too. Why? Because now I'm zooming in. Okay, right here, you see this part here, right here, this country, Singapore. So Singapore has a temporary permanent a US naval base. US presence is always here. Okay, that's one aspect of it. So some of you like, okay, US presence is there, what's the problem? The problem is that Chinese presence is also there too. Now some of you like, what? Yes. So there are some internal things now I'm gonna tell you. Okay, internal thing is this, that Chinese have been, okay, let me actually share the map real quick once again. Chinese have this new strategy. They came up with this new strategy a few years ago. Okay, Chinese came up with this new strategy to offer all these countries that are around here, like these countries, Malaysia, Brunei, then Papua New Guinea, all these things right here. Okay, they started to give them this new thing, new strategy of what? They started to give them new offer that, hey, how about we send our police into your country to ensure safety and secure domestic security of the thing. This is gonna actually cut the huge cost. It's gonna be good for you, so you won't have to invest into or put money into your security and all that. That's what Chinese have been selling. And some of these countries actually they bought this idea too. And US has been trying to actually counter this thing for quite some time. But most of these countries, what they're doing is that they don't want to become sandwiched between US and China's Cold War. That's the whole thing that's going on in that region. Okay, so the case is same in Singapore too. I'm not making any of this up, guys. All right, these are the things you can go verify all these things internally that's going on. And so Singapore, Malaysia, all these places, especially Singapore, becomes a what? A point of intersection for the conflict for US and China. That's where these two forces they collide. So US may actually come up with this thing to disrupt this whole thing if needed. They may. Why? Because it actually helps their interest one way or the other. All right. So that's a possibility, but we will see. All right. So that's what the whole Vladivostok Chennai corridor is. That's why it becomes very, very important. Okay. Now, from the trade point of view too, when you look at the trade, uh, then you will see that every corridor that's there, you try to solve a vulnerability, you try to create a major trade corridor, then it always has geopolitical consequences, okay, due to shared interests or conflict of interest. I just discussed that, right? And Chennai Vladivostok corridor is pretty much the same way. And now, so why Chennai Vladivostok corridor will have some more problem? For the same reason, let me share my slide. Okay, for the same reason, US wanted Russia out of Europe. Now Russia's entry is in Indo-Pacific. Now Russia's entry is in hardcore in Indian Ocean too. Okay, then there is India is signing a free trade agreement with Eurasian Union. Why is that? India is signing free trade agreement with Eurasian Union because there is too much ruble sitting there too. So when you are trading in the national currencies, this is one problem that you face if your currency is not accepted worldwide. So with signing the signing of India Eurasian Union free trade agreement, India can use that ruble to trade with those countries. Okay, so that's gonna help for both countries, Eurasian Union and Russia and all that. So it's gonna be a win-win situation. Then but that's gonna become a problem for somebody. Somebody would want to finger into it, right? Then you have then India becomes the gateway for Eurasian Union too. Then you have shared security interests. So always Americans wanted Russians out of Indian Ocean and they wanted Russian out of Europe. They were succeeded in getting Russians out of Europe. And now they may try this thing, but I think that this is where I think the old world order will finally succumb to its fate as usual. Okay. And that's how the cookie is gonna crumble down the line. That you will see that Vladivostok Chennai corridor, all these corridors are gonna be developed. The supply chain is gonna move eastward more so than the westwards. And US may try to start something in Malacca. And that's why India is working really, really fast. That's why India invited the Myanmar president and all too. To address that. That's why India's working on Andaman Nicobar. That's why India West Bengal victory mattered. And so, because it's a race against time at this point, India wants to solve all that so that India can go through Myanmar to the Gulf of Thailand. Okay, that BIMSTEC trade corridor can be completely finished and things can move forward because India has lots and lots of trade going on in the ASEAN region, that region. Okay, and this whole BIMSTEC will be further integrated with what? With the IMEC. So IMEC, what's gonna happen? IMEC, Vladivostok Chennai corridor, BIMSTEC corridor, all these corridors will be combined into one to serve one and one goal: the ASEAN countries ultimately and the Indo-Pacific, the Canada, US, South America, Latin American countries and all that. So this is gonna be a huge thing. Okay, so this is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.